Thank you. Good evening. The Raritan Township Planning Board is now in session.
Call to order. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act is satisfied by the placement of a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board at the municipal building. And transmitting the notice to Hunterdon County Democratic.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chairman, Mr. Edward Gettings.
Here.
Vice Chair, Ms. Donna Drews. Here. Ms. Robin Fatu. Here. Mr. Scott McDade.
Here.
Ms. Judy Dijon Domenico.
Here.
Ms. Michelle Cavacari.
Here.
Mr. Dennis Concanon.
Here.
Mr. James Miller.
Here.
Mr. Glenn Sokolowski.
Here.
Board Professionals, Board Attorney, Mr. John Bellardo.
Here.
Township Planner, Mr. Jeffrey Beccarella.
Here.
Township Engineer, Mr. Rakesh Darji.
Present.
And the following board professionals have asked to be excused. Township Landscape Architect, Mr. John Morgan Thomas, Board Traffic Consultant, Mr. Jay Troutman, and Board Planner, Ms. Jessica Caldwell.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence for our service members. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, first up this evening, we have minutes from our December 13th and January 10th meetings. Let's deal with December 13th first. We had received those in advance. Does anyone have any comments or suggestions on these minutes? No, there being none, can I have a motion to approve December 13th, 2023?
Motion.
Second. Chairman, Mr. Edward Gettings.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman, Ms. Donna Drews. Yes. Ms. Robin Fatu.
Yes.
Mr. Scott McDade.
Yes.
Ms. Judy Dijon Domenico.
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Concanon.
Yes.
Mr. James Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up, the January 10th, 2024 minutes. Same thing, we've received these in advance. Does anyone have any comments or suggestions on these minutes? There being none, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second. Chairman, Mr. Edward Gettings.
Yes.
Vice Chair, Ms. Donna Drews. Yes. Ms. Robin Fatu.
Yes.
Ms. Judy Dijon Domenico.
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Concanon.
Yes.
Ms. Michelle Cavacari.
Yes.
Mr. James Miller.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up is citizens' privilege. If we have anybody from the community in the room with us this evening or online.
There is.
And there is. Well, welcome this evening. If there's something you would like to address to the planning board this evening that's not on the agenda further down tonight, now would be the time to do that. If so, please speak up, give us your name. Okay, there being none, we'll move on. Resolutions, there are none this evening. And then for public hearing, we have Johanna Foods.
Evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Chairman, members of the board. My name is Stephen Gruenberg. I'm an attorney in Flemington, New Jersey, and I'm here on behalf of Johanna Foods, Inc. for what we think is a very minor expansion to an existing dock that we're replacing. Essentially, on this very large commercial development that's well known to the board and the township, we're asking for a 152-foot expansion of an existing dock, and along with some safety features that are being implemented around that dock area. We're asking for a site plan waiver, and the basis of our site plan waiver is your ordinance has three different categories where you can ask the board for a waiver of site plan. And the ordinance section is section 296-45. And the two that we're really relying upon is the first one is A, where the applicant has secured previous site plan approval under the terms of this chapter, and the proposed development has insignificant impact. We'll provide testimony that this proposed development has insignificant impact in the scheme of things with Johanna Foods. And I'm going to skip over B because it technically doesn't involve normal maintenance like replacing a new roof. So I'll skip over that, not make that argument, but I'll make the argument under C, which is that it does not affect existing circulation, drainage, building arrangements, landscaping, buffering, lighting, and other considerations of site plan review. This is just replacing an existing dock, making it slightly larger with safety features over existing impervious coverage. We're not changing any building arrangements or lighting or anything of that nature. And really, it's just something that your ordinance allows us to do to try and expedite this type of development. With that, this application does not require notice of hearing, and I have two witnesses. And the first would be, I was going to call Joe first, yeah. If Mr. Daly could come forward.
Member Runner, I swear both of your witnesses.
Great, thank you.
Both of you gentlemen would raise your right hand. State your name.
Joseph Daly.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or otherwise in connection with your application.
Yes.
Both sworn, our professionals previously been sworn and remain under oath for the remainder of the council.
Thank you. I am not used to you being on that side of me.
I
Watch out.
It's like having John Drill on my shoulder here. Now I've got John Bellardo on my shoulder here. Mr. Daly, what is your position with Johanna Foods?
Vice President of Technical Services.
And how long have you been with Johanna Foods?
44 years.
So you're slightly familiar with the site.
Quite.
Why don't you tell the board what we're here for in terms of the expansion, replacement of that dock?
We're here to replace our existing loading dock building. It has no impact on anything. Drainage, brought up. Dock over 2 floors shorter than what we have. That's mainly for a safety aspect. Walkways of employees coming in and out of the dock. Safer access to get in. Another part of that is we're facing ourselves a little bit apart.
So what are the barriers that are being put in? What are they constructed?
So on the front side of the building, you see it on the plan, we're putting in a barrier, a concrete barrier to protect the building and also provide a walkway for employees and truck drivers coming to the site to access around it. So,
This is all over existing impervious coverage.
yes, it is.
I don't have any further questions.
No, I'm sorry.
I really don't have any further questions. Really just want to explain it. Mr. Hill, talk about the site circulation, and go over the plan.
Yeah, my understanding is from Mr. Vaccarella that this is a changed plan because it shows the turnaround.
We have.
Can
we
you
have
testify
one-
to that, please? Or-
I'll have Mr. Hill testify
Okay.
to it, but we have one plan, just revised architectural showing stairs on it.
Okay.
Which is just part of the feature. Let me just answer this. And then we have a plan just showing that trucks can go around it without any interference with it's not exactly a new plan, it's just something to demonstrate to the board. So unless somebody has questions, Mr. Daly.
You want to have questions now?
Why don't we first qualify you? Can you give the board the benefit of your qualification?
And you've testified before this board before,
I have.
right? So,
And why don't we provide digital exhibits ahead of time, but why don't we go ahead and provide the copies to you?
We'll be handing out, and I should go. Really here on- And then once you get going. Yeah, okay, I take the OG. This recording sounds like.
Why don't you identify that plan?
Yes, this was part of the original. As I was saying, this is a plan entitled Overall Plan of Approved Applications. It's dated Progress Print 2005.26.
That just has a red circle on it identifying the area.
Right. And this is just basically an overall layout of the site showing the area that we're talking about. It's right here off of Johanna Foods Road, or Johanna Farms Road, excuse me. So this is the area we're talking about.
John, am I correct? That'll be marked A1? Yes.
The one that's marked as I think it was submitted as part of the-
That-
Anyway, I'll tell you why this is approved. Yet you meet more quickly. We're not going to do a resolution for waiver on your site plan approval. Just send a letter to the secretary indicating the exhibits and plans or decide upon copy this is back on copy. That way you can get.
Appreciate that. We will mark that exhibit A1.
Now you're referring to something else there.
Yes, this plan is called WB-67 Truck Turn Exhibit. It's dated February 12th, 2024, unrevised. Basically, it just shows a blow up of the loading dock area and a WB-67 design vehicle tractor trailer, which is the larger tractor trailers on the road with the 53-foot trailers. It shows the proposed Jersey barrier walls. Goes out here and along here to provide a pedestrian corridor. And we also dimension from the edge of the wall to the edge of the trailer parking along this curb. It's 35 feet wide for one-way traffic for a tractor trailer, which, as you can see, is more than sufficient for the trailer to go through, to go to the other parts of the site, or to come up here and back up to one of these loading docks. Similarly, over here, the truck can go to the north and then back into these parking stalls along the side, along the curb. So there will be no impact on the circulation pattern of the site by doing the improvements to the loading dock and adding the concrete barrier walls.
Question,
Yes,
the truck template shows them backing into the two docks on that side. How do they get into the two docks on the other side?
they will do that the same way they do it now.
Okay.
There are trucks parked there, so there is no problem with that. And this wall would not have any impact on any movements to get in there, so we didn't think it was that
Okay. I
important
just-
to demonstrate.
Okay.
So you were part of the prior approvals on this matter, so that the applicant had received, your firm was involved and had secured prior approvals, correct?
That is correct.
And do you have an opinion whether this has a significant impact or an insignificant impact on those prior approvals?
De minimis, basically none.
And is it fair to say that this proposal doesn't affect existing circulation, drainage, building arrangements, landscaping, buffering, lighting, and other considerations of site plan review?
That is correct.
And we have the architect's revised plan showing the staircase that I think was provided as well. You can't testify to that, but can we mark that as an exhibit?
Certainly. This is an architectural plan entitled Truck Dock Rebuild, sheet A01. With a last revision date of February 9th, 2014. Prepared by Steve Tiberio Architects. And basically, if you're referring to this plan, it was revised from the previous submission only to add staircases down along the building wall behind the proposed concrete barriers to provide protection from any truck traffic. And that was it.
Great. Mr. Baccarello issued a January 19th, 2024 correspondence. And I think we've addressed the comments in there. Comment number 3 indicates will removing 2 loading spaces meet the threshold for the floor area requirement. Can you address that issue?
Sure. The township has a design standard for industrial uses that up to 75,000 square feet requires 4 loading docks. And then you need another loading dock for every 100,000 square feet or portion thereof above that. The juice plant is a total of 245,000 square feet, give or take, which would require 6 loading docks. There were 6 here, which is obviously being reduced to 4. But around the rest of the building, there's about another 40 or 45 loading dock areas. So that it's not going to impact that whatsoever. They have more than enough loading docks.
And number 4 is, does the applicant anticipate any restrictive traffic movement with the proposed drive aisle width? I think we've already
Yeah,
discussed
that's what I testified to earlier.
that. So I have no further questions for Mr. Hill.
John, can I just clarify that the truck exhibit, that's going to be A2, correct?
I believe that's what you said.
He said,
Yeah,
okay, and
A2
then,
is the truck.
and then the
exhibit.
architectural is A3.
Correct.
Okay, just so I have that.
I don't think we have any other questions.
This was the most complicated application I've ever presented.
But you'll be back.
I'm sorry, Steve, I didn't get that on record. I couldn't hear you. What?
I think I've made my pitch.
Line 129-645.
That's correct.
You're good with everything? Okay. All right. And I think I'm going to ask for a motion to approve Johanna Farms site plan waiver.
Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me? Sorry.
Go ahead.
sorry, Mr. Chairman, just one thing. I didn't produce a review letter, but I was just asked to take a look at this, the exhibits for this evening. The only thing I noticed, I have no objection at all whatsoever with the waiver. The circulation template, works fine. The one thing I did notice was the drainage, as far as the loading dock drainage on the, I imagine that from the exhibit, it looks like there's trench drains on both sides, but on the architectural, it only shows trench drain on one side. I'm guessing, is that just an oversight or graphical issue that we have fixed?
with the architect, I believe.
Yeah, because on the architectural plans, it only shows the trench drain on both sides. Can be located, attached back into the drainage, but on the south side, it didn't show anything. So I want to make sure that's addressed. Other than that, I absolutely
good.
have no
Okay.
objection.
Well, I skipped a step as well. So I know we have somebody online with us this evening. If you have any questions for the testimony that was just given, now would be a good time for you to ask those questions. There being none. Now I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the site plan waiver for Johanna Farms for the reconstruction and enlargement of the loading dock.
Motion.
Second. Go ahead. You can have it. Second.
Chairman, Mr. Edward Gettings,
Yes.
Vice Chair, Ms. Donna Drews,
Yes.
Ms. Robin Fatu,
Yeah.
Mr. Scott McDade,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Concanon,
Yes.
Ms. Judy D. John Domenico,
Yes.
Ms. Michelle Capatiri.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Send me a draft of that. Let us know if I approve it. Someone needs a site plan. We'll do that one along. Very much appreciate that. For me, unless you need me to talk about that letter.
I mean, if you want to just read into the record, you're good. You're good. If you just want to read your letter for Diamond Nation into the record,
Yeah, can I have it back?
yeah.
Thank you.
I just sent a letter to the board in relation to my conversations with Ms. Vaughn. Just saying, I'll read it. Pursuant to our conversation, the applicant has requested a professionals meeting in order to address as many issues as possible prior to the resumption of the public hearing. As such, we request that the February 28th, 2024 hearing be continued without further notice to a date in April. We hereby extend the time period for the board to act on this application through the end of May 2024. And I will be in attendance at the meeting this evening to address any concerns that the board may have.
And I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of it. We don't have this, right?
Diamond Nation?
Oh, the Diamond Nation.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Yes,
Technically scheduled for in 2 weeks, but I wanted to address it.
got it. Thank you.
So that at the next meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're here on a number of applications, so it's good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you, you also.
Happy Valentine's.
We're gonna give you a dedicated parking spot. We're gonna give you a dedicated parking spot in front of the lot.
Oh, I know. And coffee too. We're gonna fix that.
Okay. We were provided some correspondence from the Raritan County Planning Board on the stormwater control ordinance approval. Also, the land use
Okay.
report, you folks have that?
Yes, and the committee will be, we're set to have it on the agenda for 2:20.
220.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
everyone's currently reading through it. Much appreciate the comprehensiveness of it as well.
There's
Is
a lot there.
Jessica going to do a presentation on it at
I
all?
will check and see because I'm not leading the agenda
Okay,
She didn't mention that to me today
yeah.
when I spoke to her.
That's
And
a
there
great
could
call,
still
though.
be some modifications.
Yeah.
Of course.
Based upon John Morgan Thomas, he still had some adjustments.
Okay.
And obviously,
Yeah, let me check with
anything
the
the committee
mayor.
comes back.
Yeah, it might, given the breadth of the changes that are coming in, I know when the subcommittee was meeting, we thought like it might be really helpful
Yeah.
if she gave some contextual, and I
Yeah.
think to stand up for the rest of the board members here, they'd probably like to hear what it is too. So maybe if we could
Mhm.
just have that distributed to the planning board too.
The actual report itself,
Yeah,
just if, after she reviewed it, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing too is I know as a committee, we've discussed revision of the master plan as well. Recognizing when it was last done, revisions, et cetera. And so that's something on our topics that we've discussed is having that
Okay,
master plan looked at again.
good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
There's sustainable Jersey stuff that's related to updated master plan.
Yeah, we could probably talk a little bit that maybe the EC and Green Team can,
Yeah.
can, weigh in a little bit, because there are some new municipal land use law requirements regarding sustainability elements.
Yeah, so we're trying to build that into the budget so we can
Okay.
fund the work that
And
needs
then-
to be done.
Has anybody talked about updating our NRI that's updated by like, I don't know, 10 years?
No. You can share more.
Just curious if anybody mentioned it.
But, yeah,
It's just another one. Oh, yeah, like there's grants out there that, yeah,
Okay.
I think there's somebody to do it, 'cause it's very, you need
Not easily,
an
but
environmental engineer, I guess.
Mhm.
That does these things.
okay.
Okay, we were also provided with a deck on the affordable housing update, which we're not going to go through 45 pages tonight. But Mr. Bellardo, you had mentioned in an email, just a quick overview of what this, I read through it today.
Right, and
There's a lot to
that 45 pages is obviously a lot, and that was something provided by the municipality that Friday, and they provided an online seminar. Bill 84 came out of the assembly on Monday. My understanding is that it's going to be considered by the Senate in March. So it's possible that we could have new legislation by the end of March, as soon as the governor signs whatever comes out of the process of the assembly. And suffice it to say, Jeff Serenian does a huge amount of work in the affordable housing area. It's kind of a guru that filters information down to his attorneys. And I've got here tonight, I'm not going to discuss it publicly. The numbers under the old Judge Jacobson methodology and under what was then the bill, and they're quite substantial. Very, very high numbers. It's obviously something that we're going to need to work with and examine when we do get a final bill. I know the committee, Ms. Caldwell, doing a preliminary study, I believe, at this meeting on February 6th. And I know from representing together town with respect to Mount Laurel obligations, that's a good step because they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be hiring planners to look at where we're going to be able to get credits this time, where we're not going to be able to get credits, what's in the mix. So it's going to be a very expedited process because we need to have a resolution once we get a number by January next year, indicating how we preliminarily will comply with their obligations if in fact we and the committee, this committee decides to do so. When, if, and where. It seems like we just went through the third round obligation. We filed a declaratory judgment action. I recall on a one day back in July of 2015, and I remember at the time looking and saying, well, this is good till 2025. That is a one-way walk. Look at that flying at us very quickly. It's not from a municipal standpoint with legislation. My township committee in Ernest Township, County last night adopted a resolution. This legislation, and the mayor there is going to be sending letters. The governor various elected officials. I don't think it's going to have much impact. It seems to be something that's flying based upon party lines. There's a lot out there. Obviously, working with both the planning board and township committee, they're working together to see how to address this and in what manner. As always, Raritan Township is the epicenter in Montgomery County, and it seems that the township always gets the burden back of the sewer service area and more industry and basic growth. So I certainly am here to answer any plans, questions you have. Tonight I have one.
John, I guess my one general question is, we have no sewer capacity. So is there, did they factor that in at all into this?
Sewer capacity is certainly something that will possibly thwart any plans to develop. I know one municipality in Raritan County last time decided not to participate. They took their office and went home, and that was Tewksbury Township. Tewksbury Township says we're not going to reach a deal with their housing center because we don't think you can build anything here. If you think you can find something that has sewer, basic land, or that you can put these units in, then free to do so. I'm not aware that anyone's been able to do that last time. I do recall during the last round, the township committee worked with RTMUA at the time to give an expedited primary allocation of sewer at that time for the developments that qualify. I simply don't know if that's possible at this particular in time, or if any capacity is even available in RTMUA.
Yeah, I mean, that would seem.
I think
yeah,
it
like-
begs the question, does the RTMUA have to explore expansion, which has been discussed agnostic of the affordable housing legislation? So I would imagine they're going to.
I would think it would bolster the township's position if we had a clear articulation of what the capacity is, what small capacity we did have was given to the affordable housing that's been built to the detriment of any other industrial expansion or commercial expansion. I think that's where I always feel bad. Our township's done a lot.
My understanding is the state ignores those infrastructure challenges
But the state DEP has, I believe, in the past said that our sewer plant, because of the water quality of the stream, can't.
can't expand on that site.
Yeah, well,
So I'll frame it that way.
we don't have any
I
other
think it would be up to a
category.
I know, it's C1 waterway.
builder's remedy to somehow challenge it, because RTMUA does not have sewer capacity. I won't say much, but I looked at that particular issue last time. We wanted sewer capacity, so we can meet our obligations, and there are certain agreements that are in effect there back in the 90s and early 2000s where developers have taken no action. And I do know that courts have indicated that you need, as a utilities authority, sewer authority, to have a system in place where if somebody is just sitting on capacity and hasn't done anything for a certain number of years or taken any development steps, that you pull the capacity back. And that was a case in this area involving Raritan Township Sewer Authority and Township, like a number of years ago, where I think it was the Acres case. It's a big case where they're saying, hey, we don't have it, and developers will come in and try to prove that you do have it. Far Hillsborough is a sleepy little borough near me in Somerset County, with about 800 plus people. They reached a oral settlement agreement with multi-homes, and eventually they said, hey, we can't do it, we don't have the sewer where you got your approval. Well, and they ended up suing, and I can tell you now, right now, to Burns Township, or Hills, that whole area is a mess because they were sued and they ended up bringing the sewer line up to develop. But it's rather frightening because some of these numbers with 15% rental set aside, 20% jail set aside are not, in my opinion, sustainable. I've seen some numbers down in Mercer County where municipalities down there that are 1,300, 1,800. I saw a short community in Cape May County that's in the thousands. These are not numbers that are sustainable. And in talking with certain builders with interest rates rising, cost of construction going up, there may not even be builders that want to come in unless there's that infrastructure and to do or develop these projects. My law firm actually was designated a Mount Laurel inclusionary site in Raritan Township, along with an office building next to us in a Verizon substation. There's no sewer. There's really no sewer at all in Raritan Township except a small area in Morris Township line. The town said, "Oh, well, that's Mount Laurel. If you were a builder, go do the treatment and get approval from DEP for on-site disposal." So this is going to be an interesting 2 years.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, John, do they put more of an emphasis on like affordable housing rental as opposed to ownership? Or is it either the bigger push for ownership?
Everything's going to have what I call you need, you're going to have that, and that's where your professional planner comes in because you get a bonus credit now for rental units. Still allowed to use extension of units as credit. There was talk of having senior housing cap 25%, 33%. So, Bedminster Township, which was at the epicenter of the Mount Laurel Township, they have hundreds of course, hundreds, as Judge Serpatelli said, they probably at the time have to the next century. Guess what? We didn't have enough single family rentals last time. So those hundreds of affordable units in the hills, they didn't help us. We didn't have single family rentals. We still need to do 28 single family rentals. So they have rezoned in the center of the town, huge inclusionary development, Cushman to ARE, and we're getting to be 15% single family, 23 there, 5 properties, it's 28. Cushman comes in and says, we can't do it. Construction costs, and you do this, and do that. They say now they want to go to New Jersey Housing Finance Agency, get lower credit, except instead of giving us 15%, they have to give us 20%. And then they have to enter into a file. They don't want to enter into a file because they say then they don't have enough money to build. So, I mean, there are just so many balls that are going to have to be juggled in the air on this. At some point, and I've spoken to developers, you're not going to have building remedies soon because it's going to be cost prohibitive to build these types of developments, and perhaps infrastructure or sewer prohibitive because there's no capacity. That's not to say people won't try to come in if you don't come up with that number and try to do it somewhere. I feel questions in Berners Township seems like almost on a monthly basis for somebody representing a law firm will write me and say, that office building on 202 United Health used to be in vacant. Guess what we want to do? An inclusionary development. I've got this side. Remember that quarry that closed in your town? Guess what we want to do? Inclusionary development. So it's like vultures, certainly, and the legislature's on leash.
The report I noticed mentioned certain dates within 2024 that failure to take action will result in, and I couldn't interpret it well enough. But if you were to say, here are some very critical dates, decisions that need to be made or actions taken, could you help interpret that for us and being members of committee too? Because I would hate to pass a certain date in 2024 and have missed the opportunity to take proper action or decision.
No, absolutely. And I guess, we're going to have to get a final bill first of all. That's pending legislation where we know what those dates are, and the Senate may change certain things. But besides the planning board attorney, I'm identified by the governing body special counsel for Mount Laurel years. So the benefit of this is that you're not the only one I do this for. I do this for 3 other towns, and there is a group of us that talk quite frequently. The zoning board of adjustment attorney John Grill is a guru in this. We work with Jeff Sereni. Their last time we formed an administrative attorney. Judge Miller was an oral attorney. He said, I don't want 59 towns underneath Warren and Somerset, all filing individual briefs on matters. So what we did is, and there's still money left over 10 years ago, is every town threw money in, and we would have Jeff Sereni file comment briefs and things like that. So the municipal attorneys all work together. We have to work together because it's about who's attorneys and tertiary housing center are working together, and they've got the upper hand. They're the ones that are pushing this. I don't think some of the state senators and assembly folks that live in urban communities really understand the impact this is going to have. And they couch it in terms of what you need to provide affordable housing, but if you're in Union City, I don't think you get what this does. Well, maybe you do. And there's a reason you're doing that, but that's political in nature. I'm not gonna go there wrong.
Did anything happen in Tewksbury after they were just like, well, nope, we're not doing it?
I'm not aware that anyone's been able to farm land within the sewer service area in Tewksbury. But you run a risk because they don't have protection, so. But Tewksbury is not urban township.
Just curious. I didn't know if like the state could come down on them.
No, it's not the
Not.
state that comes down on it, it's the developer that comes in and says, I want to do this project, and they haven't met their obligation. The other point of this is that we're no longer going to be with Warren County. We're now thrown in with Middlesex County. So our region would be Middlesex County, Somerset County, and Hunterdon County. And the legislation allows the justice of the Supreme Court to appoint as a so-called mediator or overseer of your community a retired Malworld judge. For someone with Malworld experience, but they've got to be someone that was on the bench in one of those counties. Well, the things that a lot of us fear that are in Somerset and Hunterdon is there is a retired Malworld judge, and that judge is Doug Wilson. Doug Wilson is up in the Council of Veteran Properties. He has 700 employees. It's one of the major developments in the state of New Jersey. And when towns were before Doug Wilson last round, they got socked with huge numbers. So the fear that many of us have is that we can end up in Raritan Township now in that region having Doug Wilson overseeing us. A lot of bad things here that are not good. And being in Middlesex County, in my opinion, is not.
We can't fight that.
Not if it's in the legislation. You're in the region that they put in the bill.
So the region is defined differently for affordable housing than the vicinage, right? They're
Yes.
Separate,
Instead of vicinage 13,
right?
is Somerset, Hunterdon, and Warren.
Mhm.
Region would now be Middlesex, Somerset. I'd rather have a retired judge like Judge Thomas Miller, who represented municipalities, represented planning boards, county councils, Somerset County, and here and understood, the aches and pains of the municipalities, rather than a judge. No aspersions cast on Wilson, being cast none, but someone that's working for properties, someone that sat at a table across from me last year when they wanted an ordinance township regions that had senior housing together, help area. He sat here with one of the biggest developers. There's a lot of interesting things out there.
Yeah.
They made a comment in this that age-based housing is now allowable to be included up to 30%. Was that not included previously, age-based
I think
housing?
it was 25%.
It was included at a lower percentage.
There were caps on it. You didn't get bonus credit for senior housing like you did family
Okay.
housing. So one of the things the Burns had to decide if you want to go with family housing, you're going to get a bonus credit for the next round, or if you want to go with senior housing. Well, you went with senior housing, as it turns out, it looks like you might not get a bonus credit for housing anyway. So that's where the legislation goes until the governor. Things are changing, and things changing the day before over the last month. So, it's an ongoing basis, and hopefully we can get a little better with time.
Well, thanks for the overview.
Yeah, I mean, drive through Berkeley Heights. And it's Yates County, hundreds of units in the downtown area. Out the world. Towns out there, drive through Florence Park.
Mhm.
There's a big difference between Florence Park and here.
For now.
Now.
Go up 31, go on 22, and we see it like all over our counties.
Mhm. Sure do.
And they'll still never dualize 31 all the way out.
Okay, any other board comments this evening? No, engineers' comments, gentlemen? No. We don't have a planner tonight. John, thank you for your comments.
I think after Grieger, they're going to carry the meeting in March.
The March 13th meeting, that's correct. Thanks for raising that.
And not to be a little nudge, so, so the F Greek application, I had raised an issue when they did their pre-application meeting with the technical review committee. They had inferred that they were going to be using a railroad siding to unload and offload the chemicals for the property. And I was shocked when the application came back to us revised and there was no railroad siding. So I had reached out to our professionals to just kind of say, are they doing a railroad siding or not? Because they even brought the Black River and Western Railroad along, well, the company that owns them, and talked all about how they were going to put this railroad siding in.
You want to talk about that?
You can answer it.
So I did check with their engineer about that, and they're providing, they're not sure that that's, they're not ready for that at this stage. So they're planning some piping that goes towards the railroad and sort of capping it for a possible future application where they would come back for that possibility. But as part of this application, they're not proposing.
Okay, it's just, I find it very interesting because all their stormwater is in the area where the railroad sidings would logically go, so.
Yeah, they would have to obviously make some sort of accommodation for that, absolutely.
Okay.
There's quite a number of things with the FRA in the Department of Transportation implementing rail sidings.
Mhm.
And that it is very complicated and intertwined.
Right.
Yeah, so
That's
think-
why they're not moving forward.
Yeah.
so they'll postpone it, they'll put the pipes out to a certain
Yeah.
point and then
Got it.
wait to a favorable political environment, which will allow them, especially with the Palestine, what happened in Palestine, Ohio, the issues now with chemicals on the rail, although it's the safest and best way. Tim Scott's a huge proponent, spent a lot of time with him on.
Mhm.
It is, the political climate in New Jersey is not correct for moving it the most safe and economical way
Well,
and most sustainable.
we don't talk about, we're not talking about an application specifically, but in general, I think most communities prefer, instead of multiple tractor trailers traveling through your township with these chemicals on them, to have them come in a railroad side yard, which is, especially this, in our community, we've known that railroad sidecar is used to go to Tenneco, to a lot of the industrial sites in our community as a way to get chemicals in and out. So, oh, wow, okay.
It's their application, so they
Yep.
have to meet whatever ordinance
Good to know.
standards and rules are required as
Yeah, it was raised, like I said, back to this specific, because in a pre-application meeting with the township, with our subcommittee, they represented one thing, and that's where there was a question on my part. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman.
See you on the,
So,
And happy Valentine's Day.
yeah, so
February.